Hey, you want to know a publishing secret? Most authors who are going after a traditional book publishing deal are doing it completely wrong. Today, we're going to talk about how you can reverse engineer the process to land your dream agent. Hey, storytellers, welcome to Forward Writing, where we talk all about how to move your writing forward. Whether you are a freelancer who is building a writing business as a book editor or a ghostwriter or copy editor, whatever you're doing to make money from your words, or if you are an aspiring author who is working on getting your finished book out to the world, or even if you're still working on that book. My name is Jonathan Jordan. I'm an award winning book coach and ghostwriter. And since 2018, I've worked on over 70 books as either the editor, the book coach, or a ghostwriter. So I've learned a lot in that process about what makes a book successful, the common mistakes that I see authors make, and how to set yourself up for success, which is why I've started this channel. So today we're going to be talking all about querying, and specifically, we're going to be talking about how to reverse engineer the querying process. So, first off, what is querying? So, anyone who wants to try to get their book published traditionally by one of the big name publishers, you're going to have to go through the query process. That doesn't matter if you are writing fiction or nonfiction. The process looks a little bit different for both of those, but no matter what, you're still going to have to send out a query letter. And a query letter is usually just a short email or submission that you make to an agent that says, hey, here's a little bit about my book. Here's what I'm trying to do with it. Here's a little bit about me. Do you want to see more of my book so that you can consider me for representation? That is the core basics of what you're doing. Because if you're going to be traditionally published, you are going to need an agent in that process. Most big name publishers will not consider your manuscript unless you have an agent representing you. And it's good to have an agent representing you because they know the industry better than you do. They can negotiate better deals for you. There's a lot of pluses to having an agent in your corner. And so, for most people who are going for traditional publishing, they work in a more linear fashion. So, they say, okay, I've finished my book. Now I need to find an agent. Then we need to send the book out on submission, and hopefully, someone offers us a really awesome deal so that we can get the book published. So, that's how most people go about it. And last year, I was querying a middle grade fiction book. And that was the process that I did too. I created a huge list of agents. Actually, I didn't create a list. I used Query Tracker to make the list. I used their filters to put together a list of people who say that they represent young adult and middle grade. And then I just started working through that list, going onto their website, seeing if I wanted to submit to them, and then doing the submission process, then waiting for a response. So that was how I went about last year. However, in that process, I learned a ton, and mostly I was doing the process as an experiment. I didn't really expect for many people to request the book. I did get a couple of full requests, which was awesome, but I was doing it more for the learning experience so that I could share that with you and so that I could use what I learned with this project I'm working on now. So I'm currently building in public. I've been working on a different middle grade fiction book for a couple of years, and it's now ready to start the querying process. But with the previous querying process that I went through, I learned more about how to reverse engineer your success with finding an agent. So I learned about this from the podcast, The Shit No One Tells You About Writing. They've talked about this before on there. I also learned about this from a good friend of mine who has now published two books through a big five publisher. And this was the process that she used to be able to find her agent. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to try it this go around and see what happens. So here is the problem with only thinking about the query process in a linear fashion. When you are only focusing on the stage that you are in, you're going to lose sight of where you're actually trying to get to. Where you're trying to get to is a published book out in the world that you got an awesome deal for. So the first question you should be asking is not who you want representing you, but who do you want buying the book from you? And in the case of the big name publishers, the person you want buying from you is called an acquisitions editor. Okay. So reverse engineering your query means the first thing you do before you worry about agents is first you figure out who are the acquisitions editors who are buying my type of book. Then you backtrack to find out who are the agents that work frequently with those acquisitions editors. Who are the agents who already have existing relationships with those editors so that I know they are looking for my type of book? Because if they've sold to that acquisitions editor before, then that's a warmer lead. And they're going to keep looking for that type of book so that they can keep selling it. Okay. At the end of the day, agents, they are salespeople and they have to be able to have projects that they can sell, which end up making them money, sure, but also ends up making you money. So that's how you reverse engineer the process. So let me show you what I've actually done so you can copy this on your own if you want to. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is come over to publishersmarketplace.com. And I should say up front that no, I am not sponsored by them. They're not paying me anything for this video. I just really believe in this resource. So Publishers Marketplace is a large database of all the deal makers in the publishing industry, or at least most of them. So I should also tell you up front that this is not a free resource. Currently, their pricing is $30 a month to have access. So, a lot of times, what I tell people is if you are starting the query process, then what you need to do is sign up, but then do everything you can with that first month to build the list so that if you want to cancel after that and not keep paying month to month, then at least you're only spending $30 to build your list. Okay. So I'm going to log in here to my account so I can show you how this process works. All right, here we go. So when you get inside, they also have a lot of industry news happening in here, things that are going on in the marketplace. But for our purposes today, we are more concerned about how do we find those acquisitions editors. Okay. All right, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to type in one of my comp titles. Now, this is actually a comp title that I did not end up using in my query letter, but it was one of the ones I started with because this was a book I read. I enjoyed it. And I thought, hey, this is the type of book that I think the people who would read this book would also want to read my book, even though they are different. Okay. So, Pages and Co. by Anna James. So what we're going to do here is we are going to find this right here. Okie doke. So in the deal, it actually had the name of the acquisitions editor who bought the book at the publisher. Okay. And right away, I can see all the agents that this editor has worked with on a recurring basis. Okay. So you kind of see the top agents. So I already know this is a pretty good list right here of agents that I should look at a lot closer because they worked with the acquisitions editor of a book that I see as a comp title. Okay. But here is really the beautiful part of Publishers Marketplace. If you just scroll down a little bit underneath the acquisitions editor's name and information, you're going to see some rankings. Okay. Children's, you know, what number they are in the marketplace for different categories. Okay. So right here, this particular acquisitions editor is number 386 in children's middle grade fiction. That's my category. Okay. Now, number 386, that's pretty low down the list. But the more important thing is I have a link right away to the top deal makers for my category. So when I click on that, it's going to give me a list of the acquisitions editors who are the top in the industry. Okay. So right away, I can start going down this list of the top deal makers and I can start looking at who are the agents they work with the most. Okay. So if I click on this top name here, then I am taken to a new page where I see the top agents that they work with. And then I can just go back and I can click on the second one and I can see which agents they work with. And a lot of times you're going to see overlap. You're going to see some of the same agents' names popping up. And so you start leaving yourself notes of, oh, okay, I've seen this agent's name several times with different editors. So I know that they really like this genre and this is what they know how to sell. Okay. So once you've made a list of your top acquisitions editors, then you start looking at all of the agents who work with them and go to their profiles and you start figuring out like, okay, are they open to queries right now? Do they have other books in their lineup that kind of look like mine? And you start deciding like, is this the type of person I could see myself working with? Okay. And so you just start building yourself a list of all the different agents who work with those top acquisitions editors. So let me show you what this is going to end up looking like. Um, I like Excel. So I like spreadsheets. Not everyone does. So you might decide to use Word. But what I've done is I've created my own document where I have a column of the acquisitions editors who I researched, the agents that they work with, the companies that those agents work for, their contact information, and then just different notes for myself, like maybe certain books that they've worked on, what their deal maker ranking is from publishers, marketplace, like how often do they sell middle grade fiction. And then I've got a couple other columns here on the side for when I'm going to submit the query and then any feedback that I get. Okay. The submission column here is going to specifically be for any specific link I need to go to for submitting a query to that agent. And then I'm going to keep track of when did I send it to them? Did I get any feedback? Did they ask for a fool? And when I say a fool, I don't mean a fool like, oh, you're a crazy fool. I mean, did they request a full manuscript for them to review? Because every single agent is going to have different parameters of what they want you to send. Some want you to send the first 10 pages of your book. Some of them want you to send the first chapter. Some of them want as many as 3 chapters. And so if they're interested in reading more, they will reach back out to you and say, hey, can you send over the full manuscript for me to review? And then they've got to read it and they might get back and have certain questions or have notes for you, or they might say, hey, are you open to a meeting? And that's when they're going to talk to you about the possibility of representing you. Okay. So, yeah, so this is how you go about reverse engineering the query process. Look for the acquisitions editors first who work in your specific genre. Look at who the agents are that they work with the most, and then start filtering through those agents to see which ones you want to actually query. Because you may not want to query all of them. There may be some of them who you go to their profile and you're like, it's just not quite a fit for me. They're it looks like they're closed to queries right now. And the last thing you want to do is reach out to somebody who doesn't want to hear from you. So definitely don't do that. But this is the process that I will be using when I start querying my new book, and I'll keep everybody updated on how it's going. But I say steal this method for yourself and get on Publishers Marketplace for at least a month, build your list for your book, start sending out your queries, and good luck. So, anyway, hope this works out for you. If you have any other specific query questions, feel free to drop them into the comments. I'm going to keep putting out videos like this while I'm building in public, and plenty more videos of writing tips, editing tips, business building tips for all of you wordsmiths out there. But until next time, keep changing the world one story at a time.